Welcome to the Panteva Perspective, Corporate Immigration and Global Mobility.
Hey everyone, welcome back to an all-new episode of the Panteva Perspective, Corporate Immigration and Global Mobility with immigration attorney Iskra Panteva. I am your host, Mike Leon. You know, Iskra here is the founder of the Panteva Law Group out in Chicago, where she's been helping companies, entrepreneurs, and highly skilled professionals navigate the complexities of U.S. business immigration. There's a lot of complexities to it. Iskra's going to explain in just a second. And today we're going to be talking about the L-1A visa and how companies are using it to transfer executives and managers here to the United States. You know, Iskra, it's good to see you. As always, I got to be honest, I've never heard of the L-1A visa myself personally. So can you kind of explain what it is? Why is it such an important option for these companies that do have international operations?
First, Mike, thank you for having me. And, you know, this is my favorite topic, my all-time favorite topic. I love L-1As. I feel like, I have done so many of those that, it has been, it's an easy breeze for me every time I need to talk about L-1As. Those are very specific visas. They're not for everybody, obviously, not for every company. But if you have international operations, if you want to invest money in the United States, most of the time you will need to bring some employees, either managers, executives, or some people with a specialized knowledge. And this is the visa for those type of companies, right? So intercompany transferees are employees that have been managers, they have been executives, or they have some kind of inside information about your company. And what they do is they basically need to be employed at least 1 year out of the last 3 years in your previous, in the parent company or other company overseas. And then you will need to bring them here. You can bring them here on a L-1A visa, which is usually, initially you can have it, for 3 years and then additional 2 years, and you can do another 2 years. So it's up to 7 years. But basically, you are bringing those employees so they can either start the company or they can manage your current, workforce here in the United States. And those are, pretty complicated visas, but they are also very, very helpful for some companies.
Can we talk about those companies? Like what kind of businesses are typically eligible for this category to transfer employees into the U.S.?
Well, anybody that has a company overseas in another country, not only overseas, obviously, but if you have a company in Canada or Mexico, and you have also another company here in the United States, or you're trying to open a new company in the United States, then you can kind of you can use that L1 option. Most of the companies that we have worked with are, there is a lot of different options there. At the beginning of my career, I used to work a lot with companies that are, they have a big parent company in China, and they will bring, they will have a branch here in the United States for research and development purposes, right? So they will do research development, they can do distributions, things of that nature. And that's when they're going to bring either their salespeople, or they will bring their marketing people, or they're going to bring somebody else that they actually need in order for them to kind of to expand their business here in the United States. So manufacturing companies, IT companies that are, that are having a distribution facilities here in the United States, all of those will usually, will be using that. Of course, also American companies that are overseas, that are like, that they have branches overseas and they want to bring somebody from that branch, they can also bring it here in the United States based on that visa, right?
Oh, that's good to know. Kim, let me ask one more question on that, because I mentioned in the intro that it's managers, executives that, are trying to be brought over into the U.S. What does that actually mean, though, in terms of U.S. immigration law? Like those terms, managers and executives, does it only apply to those titles?
So this is a really good question. It's a term of art, basically, and it has different requirements based on whether or not the people are executives or managers. But let me I would not like to go into too much technicality, but example for manager will be not actually somebody that has that title, but it's more about what kind of job duties they have and who they supervise. So usually if you are managing a professional employees like teachers, engineers, accountants, you are eligible for, you are considered manager. And this is one of the kind of points where USCIS is always questioning, are you a manager or you're not a manager? So one option is if you are a manager or supervising employees, at least 50% of your time that are professional employees, that will be one way of proving that you are a manager overseas as well as in the United States. The other option is if you are managing a two-tier management system. So for example, you have a store and this store has cashiers and you have, people that are on the top of those on the top of those cashiers, like supervisors, right? And you are managing the supervisors, then it means that you are managing kind of a two-tier management system. They don't need to be professional employees underneath, but as long as there is two tiers, you are safe there. So, a lot of organizational charts there that we need, a lot of degrees, educational levels, a lot of CVs needs to be presented in order for you to prove those type of things. But, the position is always something that we see in requests for evidence, in denial decisions, right? If you are seeing something, if you're seeing a negative document, like, they are asking for more documents or they're denying a visa. If you're seeing something, almost 99% of the time, it's going to be USCIS will deny it based on they are not convinced that the position is managerial or executive.
Okay, good to know. So, we mentioned about this a lot of the times it's these companies that have operations internationally, and that's why they're exploring these transfers. Let me ask you in reverse, like, how does the process work if the U.S. office is being opened up for the first time, so it's brand new? Like, how do companies navigate this L-1A transfer?
This is a great question. We have had numerous offices, numerous companies that are trying to kind of launch here in the United States, and they're having a really hard time because, the owner of the company is obviously not a U.S. national. They don't have any kind of visas, or they have a visa for business, and they're trying to start this business here in the United States. How should they do that? Initially, USCIS is providing this new office option where you can present your business plan, you can present all of your documents about the company overseas, present documents about, that you had at least have a new office. You have you have rented an office here in the United States, and then that you are planning on opening a company that will eventually need a manager, right? So if you're opening a company that will only employ 2 employees for the next 5 years, and you don't need more than 2 employees here in the United States, most likely this is not going to be a good enough for L-1A visa. But if you are trying to open a company and you are planning on expanding it, hiring more people, and eventually maintaining a management position here in the United States, most of the time that's a successful path going forward.
Well, that's great to know. And, let me piggyback on this. Can you share some examples from your work recently where, a company, through working with you guys, successfully used this L-1A category? They brought a leader over to the U.S. to start help with respect to growing that business?
Yes, of course. Most recent one, we had a Chinese company. They are actually buying a big mill. They're investing like $3 million in Iowa. And they were looking to find out how they can actually get their leader, the CEO of the company here in the United States. So we started with an L-1A visa for a new company, and they have already invested the money, they have transferred everything, and we needed to show obviously that the company overseas is a substantial company, they're doing business, they're active. We needed to show that he was holding a pretty high position in the parent company. And then we also needed to show that, they have purchased this existing business. They have invested over $3 million in that business. And that eventually they have a business plan to grow the business where they can have, enough employees to support a management position here. So, it was a 1-year visa. Once that 1 year was expired, we were able to extend it twice. And in the meantime, we are also able to apply for a residency for that individual. So if they want to stay on a permanent basis and they're not limited only to those 7 years, they can do that as well.
Well, that's great to hear. And, Iskra, before I let you go, for that Illinois business owner right now listening to this, or any company that's kind of considering that transferring and using this process, we talked about this in the last episode, but what are some planning steps, some tips that you would give them to hopefully make the process a little bit more smoother and straightforward?
Yes, I mean, this is a visa that is a very, very useful, especially for people that have, or companies that have different subsidiaries all around the world. And even if you are just trying to invest money, or you're trying to bring somebody from a different branch here in the United States, that's a great opportunity for you. Definitely need to talk with an attorney. You need to discuss all of the requirements, what exactly needs to be done. It is something that usually it's pretty paperwork heavy, so you definitely will need to be prepared very well. You will need to provide evidence regarding business activities overseas, business activities here in the United States, qualifying relationship between the companies, as well as how you can provide evidence that these people are managers. Those are all very heavy, kind of difficult to kind of provide those documents. Sometimes we definitely advise you talk with an attorney, get representation, make sure that all of your documents are in order, and then make sure that, once you have a green light, usually it's going to be a very straightforward process. You just need to kind of make sure that you are qualified under the requirements.
Yeah. And make sure you talk to an attorney. I know one that they can talk to. Iskra, thank you for the time and the insights. I appreciate it as always.
Thank you for having me, Mike.
And that's it for today's episode of the Panteva Perspective, Corporate Immigration and Global Mobility. If you want to connect with Iskra and you want to learn more about all the work she does over on employment-based immigration, do me a favor, visit panteva.com today to connect with her and her team. And do me one more favor, hit like, hit subscribe, leave a review, comment, share the episode with someone who needs to hear it. I'm Mike Leon. We'll see everybody next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.